Hey, welcome to the video. This is my final installment of my Linkin Park series here on this channel. I've been really looking forward to making this since I started this series, so I hope you enjoy. I'll be ranking my top 20 songs of one of my favorite bands ever, Linkin Park. I won't be going super deep into any of the songs specifically. If that's what you're looking for, then I recommend my other dedicated album videos. But I'm still excited to show you my list, and maybe even see your list as well in the comments. Without further ado, let's get into it. Enjoy. Before I talk about my top 20, I need to give honorable mentions to Bleed It Out, Fighting Myself, With You, The Catalyst, In My Remains, and Victimized. These songs barely missed the cut, but are still really good. It was hard not to include these, especially Bleed It Out, but there are only so many songs that can fit into a top 20. Sorry. Starting off at number 20 is New Divide. This song is actually not a part of any of the band's 7th studio albums, instead it's a part of the soundtrack for Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. I think it's definitely better than what I've done, which often gets compared to. The reasons for that are 1, it just sounds better, especially the bridge, and 2, I like the message more. From what I can tell, it's about someone who feels stuck in life with no way to progress. I think every part of this song sounds really good, and it's a staple of Linkin Park's career. A Place for My Head is one of the angrier entries on this list. Most of the track isn't amazing, but the bridge is one of my favorite screaming moments from Chester. I may mention this a few times in the video, but the transition in the bridge from whispering to screaming is one of my favorite things that Linkin Park does frequently. This is one of the times where the more immature, angry style from Hybrid Theory actually works really well. No More Sorrow is one of Linkin Park's heaviest pieces, which is always a big plus. This is one of the only tracks from Minutes to Midnight with screaming in it. At its heart, No More Sorrow is an anti-Bush statement, but its ambiguity allows it to apply to everyday situations that most people have to deal with at some point or another. Every section is very cohesive, and the bridge is amazing, being one of the last times we got to see heavy metal and screaming together in the band's discography, sadly. Waiting for the End is undoubtedly one of Linkin Park's most beautiful tracks, both lyrically and sonically. The combination of Mike's admittedly odd George of the Jungle type rapping and Chester's angelic singing bring out the message beautifully. The chorus, while at times slightly boring, sounds incredible vocally, and the transition between the last chorus and the outro is just flawless. Chef's kiss. The outro itself is quite possibly one of my favorite non-heavy parts of any song the band has ever made. There's not much to say about I'll Be Gone other than it just sounds really great. This is one of my favorite uses of electronic sounds the band has ever done, especially in the intro and the chorus. The whole thing is just very groovy. Makes you want to get up and do a little boogie, a little jig, getting goofy with it. The chorus is one of Linkin Park's catchiest, and the melodies throughout are done amazingly. One of the most underrated tracks I've seen from LP for sure. The next 3 or 4 entries were really difficult to place, so just know that they're basically equal. More the Victim, at least for me, has one of Linkin Park's best lyrical executions. Of course it helps that they relate to my life experiences, but the lyrics are basically perfect. The grittier guitar and drums really bring out some of the pain and anger in Chester's voice during the chorus and the bridge, which is just the extra push this song needed to be as great as it is. Another one of the most underappreciated, especially getting less exposure because it's Meteor 20. Wretches and Kings is without a doubt my favorite track from A Thousand Suns. It was the only one I immediately loved upon my first time hearing the album, and there's a good reason for that. This song is, in my opinion, Mike's best performance of his entire career with Linkin Park. The overly confident and at times arrogant tone he carries to fill the role of the concept is done perfectly, and the combination of that with one of Johan's best performances as well gives Wretches and Kings a special place in my heart. Also shout out to the outro. Figure 09 is again extremely underrated. I never see anyone talk about it, which is a real shame. This has always been one of my favorites, one of the heavier tracks from Meteora, and the execution throughout with all the different musical elements is subtly done really well. The bridge is one of the absolute most masterful few seconds Linkin Park has ever put together. I'm serious. The chorus is slightly weaker, but still nice, and the verses are made really good with the guitar and the drums in the background fitting with the lyrics. Don't Stay is one of the classic LP tracks. Mike doesn't have any appearances, which I would usually be sad about, but the harmonies in the chorus and the addicting guitar riffs make up for that twofold. Mr. Hahn has one of his best performances in the intro, which is super fun to whistle when I listen to the song. Chester does his famous half-singing, half-screaming for much of the chorus and bridge, really bringing out the angrier energy that makes Don't Stay click and stand out from many of the others. Given Up has been big in helping me through difficult times for a while now. It's unapologetic anger and profession of giving up, obviously, are what makes it special and surprising to the brain even if you've listened to it before. This is probably Linkin Park's heaviest song. It has a 17-second long scream. That's insane. And Chester's delivery and the lyricism in every part of the track is just top notch. The bridge is probably one of the most well-executed, overly angry, and suicidal pieces of music I've ever heard. I mean, it's hard to top a 17-second scream, right? Breaking the Habit is just barely outside of that truly elite S-tier category, or whatever you want to call it. Part of the reason for that is I just can't really relate to the lyrics about addiction, but I can still understand the message. The quality is very consistent throughout the track, so it's hard to pick a favorite part, but I think the bridge is just slightly better because of its slightly more screamy vocals from Chester. The outro is also great though. Breaking the Habit is one of the most universally loved Linkin Park songs, and for very good reason. We have now entered the elite category, starting off with From the Inside. I generally have somewhat of an aversion to slower music, but From the Inside's positioning in the album and its progression justify the verse's slowness. The chorus, while admittedly not anything amazing, uses Chester's grittier vocals to an advantage, combining them with the slower and more dark and deep guitar and drums to define the atmosphere. My favorite part by far, though, would have to be the bridge, of course. The screaming comes out of absolutely nowhere. Judging by the previous vibe and vocal style of the song, you never would have guessed that Chester comes in with some insane screaming. I remember jamming out to the bridge on repeat in English class all the time last year. A Line in the Sand is the most unexpected track to be in the top 10. I actually had it closer to 15 a few weeks ago until I listened to it and dissected it more while making my hunting party video. This song has made its presence known with the awesome guitar and drum work, which plays a huge role in defining the progression. As an album closer, A Line in the Sand is probably the best out of all 7 albums. It can act as the second ending of the hunting party after Final Masquerade, which is super cool. That whole rabbit hole is too much to explain here, but if you're interested in hearing my piece on that, then check out my hunting party video. A Line in the Sand is one of the most epic and climactic pieces of music I've heard recently. In that aspect, it has Starset vibes, which is always great. Points of Authority has always been one of the best classics. I have a lot less to say than most of the other entries, but the thing that makes this song special is Mike. Chester's good here, but none of his parts really have hooked me ever. Mike, however, has all my favorite parts, like the intro, bridge, and the outro. I don't know why, but the outro with Mike's, I don't know what to call it. Whatever, his vocals in the outro combined with the guitar riff and heavier percussion just sounds really amazing. One of the catchiest parts of any Linkin Park song for sure. Taking another step up is Lying From You. Lying From You starts off with a softer electronic kind of riff, but then immediately drops into heavy guitar and drums. Once that hits, you know what's on. I like Mike's work in the verses and Chester's vocals in the chorus, but the thing that really sets this song apart from the others is its bridge. Probably my favorite Mike and Chester collaboration in all of Linkin Park. Every member of the band is huge here, every instrument is important to the cohesion, even Johan's DJing. Mike's rapping with Chester screaming is just perfection. Some of my friends who only listen to modern mainstream pop and rap even like that part. Paper Cut is the first track from Linkin Park's first album. This is actually my phone ringtone. I mean, what a way to start off your first record. Paper Cut is catchy all the way through. The verses feature some of Mike's fastest rapping, and the urgent and panic vibe of the song fit perfectly with the theme of paranoia and stress. Every time the song comes up in a playlist, the opening percussion and electronic doo-doo-doo-doo are a clear sign that I'm about to have a good 3 minutes. The guitar riff in the intro and the chorus is also super catchy. It's the perfect way to implement a more rock-inspired style into an otherwise rap-heavy track. Also, Paper Cut is basically the OG version of Hero by Skillet. The instrumental basis for much of Hero seems oddly similar to Paper Cut. Both great songs, but Paper Cut's better, obviously. One Step Closer was actually my number 2 Linkin Park song for the longest time. It was one of the 2 songs that I credit with getting me into Linkin Park in the first place, and I'll always be grateful for that. The only reason One Step Closer fell down the ranks is because it's just too angry. Like, yes, for the right audience, it's basically the perfect song, and that was me at the point when I discovered it last year, but now as I've matured a bit, this track has lost a large part of its replay value. The lyrics, while very fitting to certain situations, can feel very shallow and unnecessarily aggressive if you're not in the mood for them, and the bridge kinda gets old after too many listens. Still though, I'll keep it at number 4 for the reason that at the right time and situation, it's basically perfect. Guilty All the Same has been one of the Guilty All the Same has been one of the songs to slowly climb up the ranks for a while now. It was the track that initially got me into listening to The Hunting Party, and it's always been my favorite from that album. The rock hymn feature was amazing, and the bridge with the rapping and heavier guitars and drums is a top 5 Linkin Park moment for sure. I think something the third of the runtime is just instrumental, which is justified by those instrumentals being absolutely incredible. The drum work on this song, and the whole Hunting Party album for that matter, is the best of Linkin Park's discography. That's especially apparent here. I would totally recommend listening to The Hunting Party if you're a new Linkin Park fan who's iffy about trying it. Getting into the elite of the elite, we have Lost in the Echo. This track has always been on the better side of Linkin Park's music for me, but it wasn't until a few months ago that it slowly rose up the ladder to this number 2 spot. The lyrics might legitimately be top 3 for this band, and the use of electronic sounds is probably their best as well. Chester's vocals are perfect at expressing the pain of loss and regret here, as usual, and Mike's confident yet subtly melancholy rapping put the message of the song out on a silver platter. The screaming from Chester in the outro is also just impossible to put in the words. The outro is a top 3 Linkin Park moment in my mind, and every little detail about Lost in the Echo is absolutely perfect. It's a top 10 song of all time for me. Here it is, my number 1 favorite Linkin Park song of all time. Faint is just a genuinely flawless piece of music. If Lost in the Echo was perfect, this is a level above that. Faint has the best 15 seconds of Linkin Park music ever created, the bridge. Chester's screaming in the bridge along with the addicting guitar riff and steady drums is one of the greatest moments of all of music history in my opinion. Everything from the intro to the final words is just perfection. If I talked about every musical aspect, we'd be here all day, so I'm just going to leave by saying Faint is my 3rd favorite song of all time, only behind 2 songs by My Chemical Romance. If you want a more in-depth analysis of this song from me, then consider checking out my Meteor video from a few months ago. There you have it, my list of my top 20 Linkin Park songs. I really love making this video, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did writing it. Linkin Park has been one of my favorite bands for about a year now. They helped me through a whole lot of garbage in my life, and it's safe to say they've changed my life in a pretty big way for the better. If you would like to see other content about this awesome band from me, please consider checking out my previous 7 videos on them. This video is regrettably the final installment of my Linkin Park series. It's been super fun to make these videos. I hope at least someone got some enjoyment out of them, because that's all I really want to achieve. With this being the end of the LP saga, I'm going to be moving to talk about other bands I like, which I'm really excited about. I'm not sure whether I'll do one band at a time like this, or if I'll do many bands at once. My process for these bands is talking about each album, then ranking all the albums, then finally making a top 20. If you're interested in seeing future music-related content from me, I put a list of bands I plan on making videos about in the future down in the description of this video. I'm leaning towards starting on MCR, Asonia, and some others soon, so stick around if you want to see one of your other favorite bands here. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day, guys.